Good evening. We want to bring our meeting to order, please. Thank you all for coming out this evening. We're going to start off with our attendance. We're all in attendance, including our new member, Mr. Bob Wieglin. Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, before you have the minutes of 9/26/22, we have a motion to approve said minutes.
I'll propose a motion to.
Okay. Mr. McVeigh makes a motion. Do I have a second?
Aye.
Very good. The minutes are approved. And would you like to call our first case of the evening, please?
Good evening. Can everybody hear me okay? I'm Emmy Randall with city staff. I'll be providing an overview of the request tonight. You have before you a request for an extension of a conditional use permit that was granted by the Board of Adjustment in January of 2019. At the time of the granting of that conditional use permit, the board agreed that the development must start within 2 years of the board's decision, and also applied some capacity restrictions as conditions on that approval, as well as a time restriction that the activity must end by 10 p.m. The request for the extension would be an extension for 5 years from the original date of approval, which would be to January 28th of 2024. And the applicant notes that the design and layout of the proposed improvements have not changed from what was originally requested by the board. The site lies within the compact residential subdivision zoning district. This is a different zoning district from what existed at the time because the city has an entirely new zoning ordinance now, but it is a very similar district. There was not a change in what the underlying zoning was. It's just a change in the nomenclature. So it is zoned the same as it was previously. The site is located at the end of Watson Road, right along the I-75-71 corridor. On the site today is a shelter and a lake. All of the other buildings have been demolished to make way for the proposed project. The properties to the north and northeast have single-family residences. The properties to the east and south are apartment buildings, and the southwest is the Erlanger Lions Club. This property is abutted by the residential multifamily zone and also the flex industrial zone, as you can see on the map. The residential compact subdivision zone has several different conditional uses that are available within that zone that do align with this use. Those that I note in this report are the parks, athletic fields, and institutional or civic assembly uses. Those all align with the proposed conditional use. There was a BOA request that dates back to 1985 to determine that this Girl Scout use was a recreational use at that time under the zoning. So this particular use has a long-standing history of the board upholding it as a conditional use. The Kenton County Comprehensive Plan calls for residential land uses on the property. On the screen now is the development plan that was provided by the applicant. And there, again, this has not changed from what was requested originally. On the site is proposed an administration building, a program center, a shelter house, 6 cabins, a canoe storage shed, an amphitheater, an archery area, an equipment storage shed, a dock at the lake, and a dumpster enclosure. The applicant's also proposing to expand parking, to widen the driveway, to add walking paths, sports courts, and a courtyard between the 2 administration buildings. The site plan also shows a freestanding sign where the driveway ends into Watson Road, and also a wall sign that would face the I-75 corridor. These signs that are being proposed would need to meet any of the sign regulations within the existing zoning ordinance, which allows for institutional uses to have signage within residential areas. A conditional use per the Kentucky Revised Statute is a use that would be essential or would promote public health, safety, or welfare within one zone. But if conditions are not applied to it, it could impair the character of the area. The board has the power to decide on a conditional use permit, and specifically to apply certain conditions to make sure that the proposed use does not alter the essential character of the neighborhood and properly integrates into the surrounding community. If the board does not set a time limit, and in this case previously the board did set a time limit, but if not, the conditional use permits would automatically expire within a 1-year time frame. The recommendation of staff would be to grant the conditional use permit with the condition that the permit be exercised within the 5-year time frame as suggested by the applicant. That means that the permit must be exercised on or before January 28th of 2024. And then also recommending that the same conditions be applied as what were originally applied, and that would be a maximum capacity of the day camp at 150 people, and a maximum capacity for overnight camps at 100 people, and daily activity must end by 10 p.m. The Girl Scouts mission and the proposed use does promote the health and welfare of children, so that's a finding that could be made by the board if the board sees fit. I don't believe it would alter the essential character of the neighborhood, and those additional conditions do provide some safeguards to make sure that it's properly integrated into the neighborhood. That concludes my comments. We do have several people here on behalf of the applicant.
Okay. Very good. Thank you. So anyone who's going to speak for or against, please stand. Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Okay. Very good. Please state your request, please.
I'd like to introduce who's with us here.
Certainly.
All right, I'm Susan Douglas. I'm the CEO of Girl Scouts of Kentucky's Wilderness Road. We serve the eastern half of the state of Kentucky, 67 counties, and so this particular property we're looking to develop as a flagship for the entire organization and for girls across the state. So I have with me here Brock from VOX and VOX, our civil engineer that's been with us since the beginning of the discussions of this project. I have Deidre Fajak, who is our campaign director, who is raising the funds, and Carol Byrne, who is not only past president of our board, but has also been very instrumental in getting us to where we are today with this project. To bring a lot of opportunities to girls here in Northern Kentucky. So Brock is going to go over the plans, and if you have any questions, I will be here to answer those.
Hi, I'm Brock McKay. I'm Director of Landscape Architecture and Planning with Viox and Viox, located just over here in Erlanger. And as Susan mentioned, we have been working on this new master plan for quite a while. It really started back in 2018, and then we went through our original, or through our latest BOA process in, I believe it was 2019. And I guess the reason why we keep ending up here is because the Girl Scouts is kind of a different kind of a land use that doesn't really have its own zone. So we are always kind of falling under this category of a conditional use in the existing zone all the way back to 1985, I believe it was. So really the facility's been on this property and operated as a Girl Scouts facility since 1985. And in the past, they operated out of it was an adaptive reuse project of basically the old house and the facilities that were there. And basically, over time, I think that what they were facing was the amount of repairs and the amount of upkeep that on the older building was becoming really more, started to not make financial sense to keep, repairing something also that wasn't originally built for the purposes of their programming and their activities and their facilities and everything. So once it kind of came to a head where a new master plan was warranted, and so we partnered with KZF Architects. They're not here tonight, but they were integral in the planning and design of the buildings and the facilities and kind of what's going on in the building. And then my team at Viox and Viox we were involved a lot with everything outside those buildings and where everything fits on the property and what improvements needed to be made, really from a site design perspective. Do I bump this thing forward, or am I, okay?
I can, whoop.
And I'm not sure I'm going to follow this to the T. I might just have this here mainly for reference in case we need to go back through it. I wasn't going to do quite as long of a presentation as last time. So if you want to just maybe go to the master plan,
Yep.
I can kind of speak to that. But it's also helpful to see, those were some of the facilities I was just referencing as being kind of dated. That's the old house, yep. That works, I think. We may have a colored one, but I don't know. I can't remember. It's been like 4 years.
I
Some
don't think
renderings.
there is.
Okay, we'll start on the black and white one, and then those are just character images of the building, because I'm sure people kind of want to know what that's going to look like. So let's just go back to that one. That's perfect. I guess an important thing to kind of lay out from kind of a from y'all's perspective is to how the site lays out. Basically, the driveway is in the same place, but one of the really crucial improvements that we want to make to the facility is changing what was a residential driveway into a two-way driveway. So right now, it's basically a one lane, so it causes kind of this issue where if someone's at each end, who's going to go first? It's kind of like a one-lane tunnel, if you've ever been, out in the gorge or whatever. But you kind of so it can create some backups while that traffic is trying to figure out what to do. So one of the biggest things from a site design perspective, we can lay we can kind of lay it down a little bit, widen it out, have two-lane traffic, which makes for smooth entering and exiting the property, which is really going to help with any type of congestion that has been occurring on Watson Road. So it allows people to go in. Another main thing is the site design has not really changed from the original location of the buildings, right? So we're not moving the buildings closer to other residential properties or influencing other people. We're basically utilizing that same site that's always been since 1985, which is shown there, kind of right there on the ridge, and then we have, right behind that, it slopes down to the existing pond. We're looking at adding some amenities to be able to better access. There's, it's not a very big pond, but there is some kayaking and some, kind of learning the ropes with some kayaks and canoes that they participate in. And then way on the other far side of that is where there would be some overnight shelters and facilities like that. So again, maintaining a lot of buffer between the facility and Watson Road, and then just adding in some other program elements like the small amphitheater and a sport court. And if you have questions about the detailed programming, we've got the Girl Scouts team that can talk about all the different programming, from architecture or archery to sports to amphitheater to what goes on in the building and all that. Susan can answer that. One of the things that we do like about the facility that the Girl Scouts have always enjoyed being is that it does have good visibility from the corridor of I-71, 75. So we're talking about 50,000 cars a day going back and forth there. It also is one of the reasons why it's maybe not a great site for residential to be too close to the interstate. So this is a facility that has been there a long time and knows that the interstate's there, and sure there's some noise issues with it, but there's a whole lot of benefit too from being able to be seen and let folks know that this is a big facility, or this is a big programming element that that girls can be a part of throughout the community. And I think that's one of the reasons that they really wanted to hold on to the site over these decades. Let's dive into the buildings just a little bit. I'm not the architect, but one of the efforts was to basically have a building that's, kind of farmhouse-like, kind of residential-like. I mean, basically nothing that is going to be. Do I scroll that down, or I don't have a button up here? I don't think. Yeah. So low profile stuff, and then with some themed walls that kind of talk about the goals and objectives of the Girl Scouts and kind of their mottos and things like that. And then a big part of this, the way this is designed with the circulation in the building itself, and kind of this garage feature is, we kind of tried to design a facility that was heavily based on cookies, and cookie distribution. It was really unique. We've never really been tasked to, figure out the cookie distribution issue. So, and that is one of the things we try to pay attention to the design, so we kind of have a loop that people can go around and all that. But I think that covers most of what I wanted to talk about today. I mean, the main reason we're here today is, again, because we keep falling under conditional use, so we keep falling under BOA. In 2019, we got approval, and then kaboom, COVID hit. All fundraising kind of went to a halt. They couldn't have events there's nothing, a good way to raise money is to kind of have a party and talk about it, and couldn't do that. So that really slowed things down, and just the unknowns of the last couple years. But I think that they've made a lot of progress. If you have any specific questions on that, and then just the nature of the request of the bigger time window is just because it's a it's a master plan thing, and it just takes time to. We've learned that it takes time to implement. But as far as any changes to the master plan, there's absolutely no changes to the master plan whatsoever since the last renewal. We really haven't touched it at all. There's nothing at all that's different. It's the exact same packet. I'll take any questions.
Thank you.
I will answer any questions about the programming here, but the one thing, and I said this earlier to Emmy, that I learned during COVID was even more today do I understand the need to have a safe space for kids to continue to grow and learn, to be around to have safe mentors and adults. Nothing like a pandemic can highlight the need for those spaces. And so we have operated on this facility for a very long time, and we have been the best neighbors that we could possibly be, and by improving things like our driveway, definitely allows us to control the traffic a little bit more. Things that you all may not know about our programming that really can help. all of Northern Kentucky are things like, we have, and I'm going to share a couple of the badges because people just don't always connect the two, is we have automotive engineering badges, we have cybersecurity badges, we have robotics competition teams, we have all of these things, these skills embedded within our program and curriculum that are really appealing to employers today. So one of the things I've also been able to do over the last couple of years is really connect the two. Like, how is this not only an opportunity to empower girls to lead the best life they possibly can, but how can we also be an asset to all of the great growth that we've seen in the Northern Kentucky region? And so I'm really looking forward to seeing this develop and getting this built. But I'll take some questions from you all now.
Okay, now basically you're asking for it's a 1-year extension?
A 5-year extension?
From what date? From the way this read, it read that it was a 5-year extension from the original proposal, which would only leave you a year left to complete this project. Is that?
Is
Yeah,
it
no.
a year to
Wait,
complete or a year to break ground?
It could be, yeah, well, it could break ground. It'd be 24, 28. I just wanted to clarify what the extension
Well,
is.
I was actually going to ask the same thing. 2024 is not, if that's what it was. But, yeah, 5-year extension from today's
From
date.
today's meeting, okay, very good. I wanted to make sure that was clarified.
Yes. And so the first, our first fundraising goal is $2 million, and we're at 850. We have lots of requests out, so we think we'll beat that goal, but we just want to make sure that our permits are in line as we continue the fundraising process.
Okay, very good. Anybody have any questions for? No?
The initial approval was for 2 years, and now you're going 5. Is it just fundraising issues, or is there any other holdup?
Well, we were very short-sighted, thinking that we could bite this off and be done in 2 years.
Sure.
And so since we really kind of had a 2-year halt almost, 2020, 2021, we're back active again, but we don't want to be so short-sighted this time. Probably should have started with the 5-year request, still
Just
staying
giving yourself more runway, basically.
Yeah.
Okay.
To make sure that we can get it done. And of course, supply chain issues, we're also very well aware that things may not move as fast today as we were planning on them back in 2018, 2019.
Sure.
So,
Okay.
I mean.
Anyone else? Any comments? Okay. Well, I believe the motion's in order. Would someone like to make a motion?
Yes, I will. Am I on here? Yep. I move to grant the application of Ms. Susan Douglas to develop the property as shown on the submitted plan dated December 31st, 2018, within 5 years of the date of the board's decision. The granting of this variance will not adversely affect the public health, safety, or welfare, will not alter the essential character of the general vicinity, will not cause a hazard or a nuisance to the public, and will not allow unreasonable circumvention of the requirements of the zoning regulations. The motion shall be pursuant to the factual determinations from the evidence provided, including without limitation the staff report, which is hereby determined to be accurate.
Very good. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Can we have a second? Roll call vote, please.
Yes.
Yes. Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Carried unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you all so much for your time, and I didn't want to persuade your decision beforehand. However, there are 5 boxes of cookies right back here for you all to take home with you tonight. Thank you so much. We appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, let's see. How my notes again? Okay, we have a little more business. We have quite a few things, actually. Would you like to?
You all have a few business items for your annual meeting, your election of officers. And then I also sent you all in your staff packet, or in your packet, a copy of the board's bylaws, which date back to, I think, the 60s. So it's the board's pleasure. If you would like to review those and make any changes or updates, we can, you can take them home and review them, or if you're ready for discussion, whatever your pleasure.
Now, we had the house, or the property on Kenton Lands Road. Do we need to act on that this evening as well?
I don't believe it requires an action of the board, but it
Okay.
would require your signature.
Okay, is that all? All right, well, that's easy.
Yes.
Okay, very good. All right, well, I'll put this aside now for that. So we'll start off with, let's see, the review of the bylaws. Have you all had a chance to review them or have any questions on what's in them?
How old are these? 67.
67.
I mean, I haven't read them, but I mean, if they've worked since 67.
You know, yeah, I had just a couple things. Most of the stuff is just as we go through the training, it's just going back and telling you the same thing we've got at all the training sessions. I did have a question about the secretary. Now, if secretary is part of the staff, so that we don't actually vote to elect a secretary, which it claims in our bylaws, I believe, somewhere that we should, but is that just, I don't know if we can change that to just say that, you know, the secretary is part of the staff, or we have to do something different for that.
You could probably just remove it as an officer if you'd like.
Okay, would you like to do that?
Sure, I'll make a note to remove that.
Is everybody
as
in
an
agreement with that? I don't think anybody wants to keep notes and be secretary.
Yeah. So we would remove from Article 4, Section D, and then we'll remove within Section A, the reference to the secretary. And then Article 5, Section A, appointment of secretary. We'll just scratch through that as well. The only other thing I noted was that there's a lot in here about each of the specific actions of the board. Section 8, procedure for appeals. And then your fees and the public notice for appeals, those are all things that are provided in Kentucky statutes,
Okay.
and they may be outdated.
I mean, I had a question, more of a legal question is, are we required to have 3 officers by chance, or will 2 suffice? Or is there a statute that, you know?
I can double check that real quick. Well, maybe I can't. For some reason, my computer's not on the internet, but let me go up here and look it up.
I think in summary, we don't have no quarrels with removing that position, but if there is a reason we have to keep it legally, then maybe we can review that in the next meeting, make a final decision.
Yeah, that'd be fine.
I just don't want to violate
Give-
a
yeah,
law
maybe-
on my first day.
You haven't lived
Kids.
on this board until you met with legal. That's the best.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything in here about required officers, but I can double check that for you before the next meeting.
And we have never had an election every year at the beginning of the year since I've been there.
Where'd you see it, Peter? Vacancies of the board.
It does say in Article 5 that the secretary shall be appointed by the board and not need be a member of the board.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So to your point, if we could just simply appoint someone from staff,
yeah.
i.e.
To
you.
provide the minutes, yeah. Yeah,
Whoever takes.
I'll
the
make a motion.
recording. Recording.
yeah. Yeah. Yep.
Especially in this day and age of technology.
Okay, is that all? Does anybody else have anything on the? Well,
Do you want to remove those sections in Article 8, A through E, I believe it would be? Those procedural things that talk about the various board approval processes. Those are all things that are kind of prescribed in the statute, in the state statute.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
that takes care of that. Now we have the election of officers. So we have to elect a chairman and a co-chairman. So we need a nomination. We'll start off with the chairman.
I nominate you.
Thank you.
I second that.
Okay, I've been nominated,
There you go. It's easy.
accepted, seconded. Want to take a vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So now we need a vice chairman. We need a nomination.
Come on, George.
I've been vice chairman
You've been?
temporarily, I've been the interim.
Then I nominate George Bettis as vice chairman of the Board of Adjustments.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Very good.
Better parking spot now.
Yeah. We'll put your plaque out.
Move the mayor's, take care.
Very good. Now we'll get that out of the way. We have some continuing education coming up.
You all should have received an email from Pamela Bushelman. She puts together a quarterly newsletter called Keep Educating Yourself, Keys newsletter. And it has several different videos that you can just watch online. So just, if you're needing any hours, that's a really good resource. I'm happy to resend it to you if you've lost it or can't find it, just let me know. So check that for any continuing ed, and then I also provided a piece of paper at your seat where you can write down any training you've done and submit that. I'd be happy to get that to Pamela. In that email as well, Pamela has a digital version of that you can fill out digitally and click submit, and it sends it to her inbox. So that's pretty neat too, and easy to do. But let me know if you have any questions about that. The requirements for continuing board members are 8 hours of training every 2 years.
Now, do they still keep track of that at planning and zoning? They keep up with that for us, so, okay.
And I believe Pamela will be putting together the tallies and submitting them to each of the cities for all of the Board of Adjustments in the next month.
Okay.
So if you want to get anything in,
Okay.
get it in the next month, so she can submit that on to the cities.
Yeah, we did that Florence thing for, yeah. I stepped next to Steve Canfield and he said the next day he had COVID. I didn't get it from him apparently, so anyway, that was kind of comical, oh well. So, okay, we have the next meeting date of February 26th if needed. Nothing yet, very good. Okay. Well, then, in that case, we need a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Okay, got a motion and a second?
Second.
Got a second, okay. All in favor? Aye. Meeting's adjourned.
I'm getting the first crack at cookies.